There comes a moment when you're halfway through explaining yourself and you suddenly stop. Not because you've run out of words, because something inside you has changed. For years, you believed that if people just understood your intentions, they would understand you. So you explained, you clarified, you justified. You gave more context. You tried again. You replayed conversations in your head, thinking maybe next time you'd find the perfect words. But somehow, the more you explained, the less understood you felt. And eventually, you became exhausted. Not from the conversations themselves, from carrying the responsibility of making everyone else understand you. This is where many emotionally intelligent people quietly lose themselves. They don't become angry. They don't become cold. They become translators, constantly trying to turn their thoughts into something no one can misunderstand. But there is a problem with that. Not every misunderstanding is accidental. Some people misunderstand you because they aren't listening. Some misunderstand you because they've already decided who you are, and some never intended to understand you in the first place. That realization changes everything, because once you see it, you stop chasing something you were never going to receive. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we suffer more from our judgments than from events themselves. One judgment many of us carry is this: if I explain myself well enough, everyone will finally see me correctly. It sounds reasonable. But life quietly teaches otherwise. Think about the people who know you best, the ones who genuinely care. Do you need a 20-minute explanation every time something goes wrong? Usually not. A few honest words are enough, because understanding already exists. Now think about the people who constantly demand more explanations. No matter what you say, there's another question, another accusation, another misunderstanding, another reason why your explanation isn't enough. At some point, you have to ask yourself, am I explaining? Or am I auditioning for someone's approval? That question is uncomfortable, because it forces us to admit something. Sometimes we aren't explaining to create clarity. We're explaining because we're afraid of being judged, and fear is a terrible guide for communication. Calm people eventually notice this. They realize that explaining isn't always connection. Sometimes it's self-protection. Sometimes it's anxiety wearing the mask of kindness. And once they see that, their conversations begin to change. Not because they become rude, because they become intentional. Instead of answering every accusation, they answer what deserves an answer. Instead of filling every silence, they become comfortable letting silence exist. Instead of trying to control what everyone thinks, they focus on living in a way that doesn't require constant defense. Something surprising happens after that. The people who genuinely wanted to understand you still do. Nothing changes. But the people who only wanted you explaining become uncomfortable because explanations gave them something. They gave them control. Every time you defended yourself, they stayed in the stronger position. Every time you over-explained, they decided whether your explanation was good enough. But when you calmly stop, that power quietly disappears. Not because you won, because you stopped playing a game that never had an ending. This doesn't mean you never explain yourself. Stoicism isn't silence for the sake of silence. It's knowing the difference between communication and seeking permission to be understood. One builds relationships, the other slowly drains your peace. So the next time you feel the urge to explain every detail, pause. Ask yourself one question. Am I speaking to create understanding, or am I speaking because I'm afraid of being misunderstood? The answer will tell you whether another explanation is actually necessary. Because one of the quietest signs of growth is realizing that your peace is worth more than winning every misunderstanding. If this helped you recognize something you've been carrying for a long time, subscribe to the channel. And watch the previous video, Some People Only Feel Powerful When You Doubt Yourself. Because once you understand why certain people need your uncertainty, you'll finally understand why you spend so much energy trying to explain yourself to them.